Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to Ohio Exopolitics. We're going to do another quick show on the California fires. This is the Mendocino Complex Fire, which is the largest recorded fire complex in California history. It consists of two wildfires, the river fire and the ranch fire. So let's listen to a few clips, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about this fire and the trends that are going on with these wildfires.
So John is joining us now from Ukiah as the Mendocino fires continue to burn at an alarming rate. Listen, John, I remember at the beginning of the day yesterday, we were telling people that this Mendocino fire was the fourth largest in state history. By the middle of my show, it was already the second largest, and now today, the largest. What's going on with the Mendocino Complex fires?
Well, certainly it has been growing quickly. Now, what we have to remember is it's growing in largely rural areas and wilderness areas. It jumped over containment lines or areas that they'd hoped might slow down this fire, but it moved very quickly with both high temperatures and high winds here. And as the fire has grown, this base camp here, this fire base camp has grown. There's now some nearly 4,000 fire personnel are working on the Mendocino Complex Fire here. There's something like 400 fire engines. We got 15 helicopters. There's a couple of big aircraft that have been brought in to try to contain this fire. This has grown and grown. As the fire has grown, the number of people coming in to fight it has grown, coming from all over the state here, really, to try to get this blaze under control, to try to contain it.
Yeah, when I read 14,000 firefighters, I sort of had to do a double take. It's sort of like a small town of nothing but firefighters working to beat back these fires. You mentioned that site that you're at, the campsite. What's it like there? You know, what are these firefighters going through?
Well, certainly these firefighters now are spending weeks and weeks away from home on fires. Fire season in California is now considered to be year-round, and we've heard things like firefighters spending 190 days and more away from home in these fire camps. Now, these fire camps really do become cities. It's about 14,000 firefighters across the state. Here in the Mendocino Complex Fire, it's almost 4,000 fire personnel. This is now a shift change time. There's firefighters out in the line overnight, watching the fire, watching for flare-ups overnight. They come in, begin to get some sleep during the day, while the daytime crews are now getting some meals, getting briefed, getting ready to head out back into the hills here, where this fire continues to grow.
Now, when we say the Mendocino fire is the largest fire in California history, I was sort of wondering what that means, because it's not the most dangerous fire. Can you sort of explain the difference between this fire and some of the other fires that are burning in California?
Well, certainly this isn't the most damaging fire in California history by any means. Something like 75 residences have been destroyed, and clearly that's a disaster for those people. But there have been fires in California in recent years that have destroyed thousands of homes. This fire is burning largely in remote, very hilly, rugged countryside. There are communities, there are individual homes, there are certainly properties, ranches, things like that in these hills. But as far as property damage goes, this is a rather minor fire as far as property damage goes. As far as the amount of land that has been burned, it's clearly the largest in the state's history, but that doesn't mean it's done the most property damage by any means.
In your story, you mentioned what the president had to say about a problem with water access, and officials there saying no, the problem is climate change. In fact, 5 of the largest fires in California, out of the 5 largest ones, rather, 4 of them have burned since 2012. So, you know, the experts that you've talked to, do they feel like this is the new norm, or the new norm is actually worse than what we're seeing?
Yes, the new norm in California is a fire season that goes all year, and fire officials say here that the cause of that clearly is climate change, that summers are hotter, drought is more common, that dries out the landscape here. it's normal in California. In most of California, there's very little rain, little or no rain from early May, late April perhaps, until November. That is normal. With higher temperatures, that dries out the landscape even more, makes it much more ready to burn, gives these firefighters a much more difficult time when they're out on these fire lines.
In your story,
the Mendocino Complex Fire, as they said, is the largest fire in California history. 459,000 acres destroyed, and it's a fire that's really a combination of fires, the ranch and the river fires combined together. But in terms of the number of buildings destroyed, it's not as great as some of the other ones. So just to kind of summarize things, the 2018 wildfire season has been the most destructive one on record, with a total of 7,579 fires, burned over 1.6 million acres. That's the largest burned acreage recorded in a California fire season. And the trend for the last 15 years or so is that the wildfires are burning more and more acres each year. For example, California wildfires in 2005 only burned about 200,000 acres, but today, in 2018, the wildfires have burned 1.6 million acres. So let's go on to the next clip.
This is how it looked for people told to evacuate parts of Lake County. Walls of flames lining the road. This viewer says the road between Ukiah and Lakeport was cut off and they had to turn back. This is the only way to fight these remote and raging fires. Air attacks like this one from a tanker plane, dropping thousands of gallons of retardant in just a single pass, creating a fire line that might not be enough to stop the fire's progress.
The focus in Lake County, the ranch and river fires, which are threatening towns near the shores of Clear Lake. We have a series of reports on the firefight, the evacuations. Let's begin with Wilson Walker on the fire lines in Lake County. Wilson?
Well, Alan, it has been just a really long, hot day up here. I am standing on Highway 175, almost midway between sort of the two ends of this highway where the fire has been burning all day. I'm going to step out of the way here so I can give you a better shot at what is happening on that hillside over there. You can see this ledge, sort of the ridge running across there over towards Clear Lake, where firefighters are trying to keep the flames in that containment zone. You can even see the retardant line they have dropped on the hill up there, but this has been, as I said, one very long day.
Romeo, Helco, we're inbound. Can we help you out?
From the moment the wind came up with the sun, what everyone knew would be a long day was just getting started.
No, this is an incredibly difficult fire. The concern now, you can feel the wind coming from my right out of the northwest.
And along about 10 miles of Highway 175, crews could often only watch as flames exploded across the landscape.
You see how black it is out there, and the fuel load is just tremendous.
You ever had fire come through here like this?
Not like this, no.
And as expected, this fire burned exactly where the wind wanted it to go. By early afternoon, it had crossed over Highway 175, burning south and to the east.
Yeah, so you know, we have your firefighter, and we're parked at that turnout where we were cutting line out this morning.
It just feels like it's like a rewind, you know, and we're going through this again. It's pretty horrible.
Among those watching the fight today, a handful of Bay Area lawmakers, including Congressman Jared Huffman.
This feels a little too familiar for those of us that went through the fires last October.
So what's on his mind as he watches another wildfire tear through this portion of Northern California?
And we're just here to make sure that all the resources are flowing that we can make available. There's a lot of competition for them right now because fires are raging around the state.
All right, you heard the congressman sort of really get to the point here. How long can CAL FIRE keep up an effort that now crosses the state with several major fires? Well, we take that question directly to CAL FIRE coming up at 6:30. Alan, back to you.
We'll look forward to that. Thanks, Wilson. KPIX5 reporter Katie Nielsen's also in Lake County, where today some evacuees had to be evacuated again. Katie?
Alan, just a couple of hours ago, new evacuation orders came down for Kelseyville and Findlay. Now, we drove through Highway 175 not too long ago, exactly where Wilson was talking about. Take a look at what we saw. As we made our way down Highway 175, we could see huge flames from the Mendocino Complex fires on both sides of the road. Bone-dry trees practically exploding into flames. Hand crews made their way down the highway, heading into the steep terrain to cut more fire lines. As this blaze continues to move east, new evacuation orders in place, this time for Kelseyville and Findlay.
It's terrifying. We stand here and we can watch the fires break out here and over here, and the big tankers are coming and dropping.
That's exactly why all the evacuees at the 3 shelters in Kelseyville have to evacuate yet again.
I received word from the headquarters to expect those folks to come over here. So we're getting prepared for that.
There are already 500 people staying at the shelter at Lower Lake High School. And with the Kelseyville shelters closing, it means at least 100 more.
We decided we would just up and move, and we came here.
For LaVon and her family, it's the second time they've had to evacuate in as many days.
It was kind of a surprise because I didn't think it was going to be like that. I thought we were just going to go and stay.
But despite repeated fires and subsequent evacuations, many people we spoke to said they won't move away from Lake County.
A lot of people here have been burnt out 6 and 7 times, from just the Santa Rosa fires, the Pawnee fire. It's a completely different universe up here in Lake County. We like Lake County.
Now, it is a double blow to a community that has already been through this so many times before. There is still room here at Lower Lake High School at this evacuation center. There are also other shelters set up in Middleton. Alan?
Katie, you were at the Carr Fire in Redding this weekend, now Lake County. What's it like going from one to the other? How would you compare them? Can you?
In a way you can, but in Redding we saw so much more destruction. The number of homes destroyed, now close to 1,000 here. That has not happened yet, but as far as the similarities go, firefighters are battling such incredibly difficult conditions. You're talking about triple-digit temperatures every day, low humidities, high winds, and that's why it is just so hard and dangerous.
The next clip is more general. It's more than just about the Mendocino Complex Fire. It's going to talk about wildfires in general, and then at the end of this clip I'll come on and say a few things about what the Meyer case has to say about these fires.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke Silva-Braga. Good to have you with us. With every passing day now, the toll from California's deadly wildfires grows. As of Monday evening, at least 14 wildfires were burning all across the state. The 2 largest are the Camp Fire in Northern California and the Woolsey Fire near Los Angeles. Together, they've killed at least 31 people. 29 died in the Camp Fire alone. We have reporters spread across the state, and we start with Maria Villarreal, who has the latest from what's left of the town of Paradise.
Paradise was lost here in Northern California, as these apocalyptic images reveal. Entire lives incinerated in a matter of minutes. God. 4 days have passed since this raging wildfire first ripped through the retirement community of Paradise and beyond, burning at a rate of 30 football fields per minute. Down PG&E power lines combined with high winds is believed to have sparked the fire.
With so many people still missing, every inch of this mobile home park has to be searched. So these crews right here, they are going through tons and tons of rubble.
Families desperate for answers are posting pictures of their loved ones online and on message boards at shelters. Corey Honey is the Butte County Sheriff and the coroner.
And in some cases, the remains that we are recovering are nothing but ash and bone.
State DNA experts are helping identify victims with chaplains and hearses nearby.
So you actually watched the fire consume your entire neighborhood?
Yep.
Ed Gleason didn't evacuate. His house was one of the few still standing today.
I never thought, and I don't think anybody else ever thought, that it would be to this magnitude. You know, and there's maybe only a couple of hundred homes in the entire town that are left.
At least 7 people died in their cars as they tried to evacuate.
How close did the fire get?
It was everywhere.
Daryl Wilkin, a registered nurse, is thankful to be alive.
Start throwing up some prayers.
He drove right through the towering inferno with 3 of his elderly patients as they fled paradise.
Everywhere the cars were on fire, and I didn't see anybody walking. And all I could think of is there were people in those cars.
It took more than 3 hours to get through hell.
You're still shaking.
I'm still shaking every time I talk about it.
And Maria Villarreal joins us now from Paradise, California. Maria, your story paints a grim picture. You're in a grim scene. Can you tell us where you are and what you've seen?
So we are in an area just as you are coming into the city of Paradise, and you probably can't tell, but this used to be a shopping center. In fact, this is the roof of one of the stores. You know, nearly everything is gone in this town. We're talking about neighborhoods, we're talking about businesses, churches, schools even. And the sad part is I was talking to firefighters earlier this afternoon. Several of them said, you know, we have as many resources as we can here, but there are other fires being fought, and the situation.
So, in conclusion, I'd just like to say a few things about these fires. They're so apocalyptic when you start thinking about the magnitude. And to me, they're an indicator that we're in an emergency situation in the United States. I don't think it's dawned on a lot of people yet, but certainly I think that's the case. Let me read what Billy has to say here. As already mentioned, enormous natural catastrophes and rolling walls of fire and violent hurricanes will rage across America, while in addition, all the terrible effects of war will bring thousandfold death, destruction, and annihilation. America's largest cities will be absolutely destroyed, and firestorms will cause great disaster and misery. Well, it is happening. We're seeing it. Hang in there. We'll be back with more information from Ohio Exopolitics. I'm your host, Mark Snyder. Have a good evening.